What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again for Football Beyond the Stats in our movement play of the week. This week, for week 2 of the 2022 National Football League season, we had a wide variety of plays to select from. We had Kyler Murray doing his thing with the Cardinals versus the Las Vegas Raiders, leading that huge comeback. There were a number of different plays that Kyler Murray specifically himself made with his feet as well as with his arm that obviously would be really fit in place here as the movement play of the week. We also had a kick return touchdown. We saw a number of different plays in that Cardinals Raiders game that, again, could be featured here, even outside of Kyler Murray. But this play, the play that we're going to look at today, encompasses a bunch of different layers, a bunch of different threads that we're going to pull upon here today and discuss as to how each one of these respective threads, and as they are interacting component parts that are leading to the emergence of this respective movement behavior that we're going to look at from seventh round rookie defensive back Jaylen Watson of the Kansas City Chiefs, really highlights a bunch of pertinent discussions that we could have. We're going to be able to have a discussion in regards to key performance inhibitors, specifically in regards to pressure as well as fatigue. We're going to be able to talk about shared affordances. And we're also going to talk about the necessity of defensive players going on the offensive. And if you haven't seen this play yet, it obviously comes from Thursday Night Football of week 2, as you can see on the bottom there. It's the fourth quarter in this AFC West matchup between these two powerhouses, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, when I say powerhouses, I mean not only when we think about their records and what it is that they're both expected to do within this 2022 National Football League season campaign, but also from a movement skill execution, a movement behavior standpoint. Both of these respective rosters are loaded with all movement team style of talent. Okay. We have one of the best movement skill matchups that we could possibly have when the Chargers face off with the Chiefs, at least in this day and age of the National Football League. The one thing I want to point out here, as we typically do when we think about how constraints coalesce to set the palette, if you will, for players as artists to go and paint upon, we must think about this environment. Obviously, in Kansas City, unless you've been living under a rock, you realize that the Chiefs Stadium is typically rocking, and it doesn't get any more rocking than in a night prime time game as what you would find here. Okay, so we have anxiety and pressure, not only the pressure of two major powerhouses facing one another, but we have pressure and anxiety of the Chargers being the visiting team coming into a place like Kansas City in on a Thursday night primetime game, what that may do to constrain the movement system of each and every one of these respective players. Obviously, we can start to talk about the time in the quarter and the situation, the conditions, if you will, that we have here. It's the fourth quarter, just a little over 10 minutes left in the game of a tie football game with the Chargers knocking on the end zone, knocking on the door here to go up and go ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're at first and goal here from the 3. So all things considered, we have to think about how the pressure and anxiety from the crowd and the environment and the situation could potentially factor into that behavior that we see, not only on one respective play, guys and gals, but of course across the entirety of a National Football League game, the 60 minutes, the 4 quarters, right? The other thing that we want to think about here, and this will become very obvious when I show you a number of different views and maybe what would have constrained this, would have been the key performance inhibitors in the form of fatigue, like I've already mentioned. Gerald Everett, number 7, it's already been pretty well documented that he was trying to come out before this respective play. And if he had, the outcome of this play or more specifically, the process of execution that then led to this outcome may have been vastly different. But that all being said, guys and gals, let's dive into the play. Jaylen Watson, defensive back, seventh round pick, rookie for the Kansas City Chiefs, in the play that he made to put the Chiefs ahead of the Chargers for good in this one. So let's watch this play in its entirety. You're going to see Jaylen Watson there, number 35, not only make the play, jump the ball, jump the route, but then make a move on Justin Herbert, quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers, in this very, very big matchup, like I've already mentioned. And Jaylen Watson has every right to be able to dance, every right to be able to gloat in a very gladiator type of fashion. Okay, a couple of different things we're going to be able to look at here, obviously, as we let this play run through. We'll let it go through another time at full speed. And I apologize if there's any glitching whatsoever. But again, here you're seeing Gerald Everett, number 7 for the Chargers, and maybe how his behavior would have factored into this. So let's watch it at full speed once again, as we typically do. And then we're going to go frame by frame, 50% speed, as we typically do also. And I think you're going to see some of the things that we've talked about over the years at Football Beyond the Stats, some very important extraneous circumstances that we must prepare for if we're sport movement specialists working with American football players, or really, guys and gals, any athlete from any sport. A bunch of different things that we need to think about, and maybe think about how we could expose athletes to these respective constraints. So let me get us 50% here. Let's see, a couple things I want to mention as we look at this play. Keep in mind, Gerald Everett had just had 2 plays on this drive. So Gerald Everett, if you look at my cursor, you look at my mouse, he's right here lined up, tight end for the Chargers. And he had just made 2 plays earlier in this drive. In fact, the one that got them to this first and goal was him in a reception, a relatively long reception, 20 plus yards, I believe it was. And as I'm going to show you from a different view, he was actually trying to come off the field. Why is that important to consider? Well, first of all, when we think about shared affordances or shared opportunities to act, Justin Herbert himself, still a relatively young quarterback, obviously very gifted, very talented, but he needs to be more sensitive, more attuned to picking up perceptual information about his teammates and about their behaviors and what they may be going through. Now, before I get a bunch of hate on this, like how can one guy be that attuned and that sensitive to the behaviors of 10 other guys, particularly when he's trying to get a play call in his years, from the headset, from the coach. He's trying to be able to make sure guys are aligned where they're supposed to be. He's trying to read the defense. He's trying to think through his progressions and all of these types of things. Like, obviously, a quarterback in today's NFL is tasked with a bunch of different roles and responsibilities, right? But in this situation, first and goal, fourth quarter, you're tied against your division rival at their home, the most gifted, the most skillful quarterbacks in the National Football League, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's, the Patrick Mahomes on the other side. It is my sneaky suspicion that they are sensitive and attuned to picking up the behaviors of their teammates. They are attuned to being able to determine maybe if a guy needs to get off the field. And at bare minimum, if that guy isn't going off the field, how it is that it may change what they are doing, what they're reading, what it is that they're going to do with the football as the quarterback attempting to deliver a pass in a very imperative situation. So though Gerald Everett, number 7, again, the tight end for the Chargers, obviously could and should get a bunch of blame here for particularly the effort that he put forth in running this route and being where his quarterback needed him to be. It's also up to the quarterback as the franchise guy to be sensitive and attuned to this type of information as well. Some of this can be because of exposure, can be because of experience. Again, Justin Herbert is very young, but let's place blame where blame is due as well. Not only Justin Herbert, not only Gerald Everett, but let's blame Brandon Staley and the Chargers staff to a certain degree. Every play in the National Football League means way too much than to have a guy where you're trying to run hurry up and to have a guy who had just caught a couple of passes, had just got you to that point and is trying to come off the field, and you waste the not only the down, but you make and put your guys in a position to make a key mistake. So some of this could be cured, or at least the chances lessened, if teams were to practice under more game-like representative learning environments. Okay, I know that sounds really intuitively obvious, but somewhat maybe a little preachy to a certain degree, because people are going to point the finger and say, well, Sean, they've had one regular season game and 3 preseason games to go through. They've had many practices, and I haven't been to a Chargers practice, at least this year, or under the Brandon Staley coaching regime. So how do I know how they practice? And the answer is I don't. But I can suspect that based on the practices I've seen across the National Football League, these types of scenarios with these circumstances haven't been practiced enough because coaches weren't sensitive to picking up Gerald Everett's behaviors. Justin Herbert himself wasn't attuned and sensitive to the behaviors, and it set the tone for this play to go astray. Sorry for going on my soapbox there, but I think this should be obvious. Okay. Okay, now that I got that off of my chest, I'm sure I'm about to rant or rave in a little bit. And again, I'm not sugarcoating it, guys and gals. Gerald Everett's effort here is lackluster at best, right? But let's not forget, as the age-old quote and cliche states, fatigue makes cowards out of all of us. And I'm not saying Gerald Everett was being a coward here, but fatigue constrains movement systems, perceptions, intentions, and action or action capabilities significantly. And that's exactly what it did to Gerald Everett here. And it led to Jaylen Watson jumping this ball, jumping this route, and then putting Justin Herbert on his poster here. And as we look at this is something that I want to discuss. I've discussed it a lot over the years here, actually, at Football Beyond the Stats. The need and the necessity to put defensive players in a position to go on the offensive. Okay. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. Most of these players who are playing in the National Football League are obviously much, much more gifted than their peers when they come up the ranks. So while they were coming up the ranks, they likely played both ways, offense and defense, and probably some special teams as well, at a high school level, at the college level, potentially for some of these players, but less at the college level, of course. And then now in the NFL, they're playing in their respective specialized position in most of these cases. But one thing that I like to prioritize with my defensive players, defensive backs, linebackers, defensive ends, it really doesn't matter who it is that we're talking about here. I believe that defensive players should be put in situations and scenarios more often in a training or in a practice environment where they know what it feels like to go on the offense at the drop of a hat. So as soon as the switch flips, they themselves in their problem-solving state of mind is ready and adaptable to be able to do exactly this in this scenario and situation. Okay, now I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. A defensive back who obviously ranks up near the top of the list from an athleticism standpoint across the typical NFL roster, even a 7th round draft pick in the form of Jaylen Watson here for the Chiefs. Most defensive backs it is going to be a mismatch versus most quarterbacks in the open field, particularly because that franchise quarterback has very little desire or experience in bringing down a player who obviously has the ball after a turnover like this. So, advantage number 35, Jaylen Watson, no doubt about it. But you still have other Chargers that are obviously chasing, and Jaylen Watson still has to make Justin Herbert miss. But look at how he's behaving. He's behaving in a very intentional yet open and responsive fashion. We can see where his eyes are, and I'm not going to belabor this a whole heck of a lot here. But look, he's looking to the affordance, the opportunity that is beckoning him of this gap. He's doing that to get Justin Herbert and to obviously commit to moving at a certain speed and pace and tempo, which he is. Justin Herbert right now realizes the game is hanging in the balance. Okay. I have to, and I myself, after turning this ball over, now have single-handedly put it on myself as Justin Herbert to bring down number 35, Jaylen Watson. So Watson uses this to his advantage. Herbert is on the gas pedal, but watch the way that these steps take place here for Watson as he commits and draws. So if this is Watson and this is Herbert, he draws Herbert to really stay on the gas pedal to try to occupy that space. He draws him right into that space, basically puts him on a string like a yo-yo. Okay. So a couple more steps here, and you can see he now, once he has figured out, he being Watson, has figured out that Herbert has started to change his path. He knows, he being Watson again, sorry about all the he knows that an opportunity, aka an affordance, an opportunity to act, an invitation to act has opened up. Okay. These guys, yeah, Austin Eckler, obviously number 30 for the Chargers, is going to be quicker. He is going to be faster. He is going to be more explosive, maybe a little bit more likely to bring down Watson. But Watson knows in this situation that it really is about he versus Justin Herbert. And he will take those odds every single day of the week, especially then when he's got two teammates right here that are ready to be a convoy as well. So we look at how Watson sets this up. It may seem subtle, but this is highly attuned intentional behavior for a defensive back in the open field. Okay. This crossover, as Justin Herbert commits, once Watson knows that Herbert has committed to this angle. Again, I know I've showed it, but look at the angle here, guys and gals, the bearing angle. And that is an information source that Watson, as a skilled mover with a ball in space, is picking up and being able to read Herbert's intentions. Herbert is crashing to the sideline, thinking full well that Watson is trying to head to and get to the sideline and head down it, right? Then we also see, let me get my spotlight here. We also see, look at the position that Herbert is in. Okay. So not only is Watson taking in the information about bearing angle, he's taking in the kinematics and postural cues that Herbert's body is essentially telling him. Okay. So these are information sources that are acting to guide and channel the potential ways of acting for Watson. But once Watson gathers this, oh, and by the way, he's also very sensitive, most likely, to the speed of Herbert. So those information sources combine to channel and regulate Watson's affordances to act. And Watson's affordances to act, obviously, are right there in the form of that cutback angle, that angle breaking in. But let's watch his perception now in the open field. This is something that I know almost each and every week when we see a player get in the open field. I'm almost always drawing you, the viewer's attention, to this constant perceptual pickup, this constant information detection, this constant scanning. Look at Watson's head. Okay. He's looking left, he's looking right, he's looking over his shoulder. Something that most people in training and practice environments look at, the dude is still looking over his shoulder. Yeah, he wants to do it to do the Dion high step and the Dion dance, but he's looking over his shoulder to get this constant online direct perceptual pickup. The world is its best model, and Jaylen Watson is trying to get that updated model as he's going throughout. Look at him jump the route here. They're going to highlight it, NFL Network or Amazon or whoever the heck it puts this dang thing out now on Thursday Night Football. But as soon as he jumps that route, as soon as the ball is anywhere near him, he immediately flicks the switch, goes on the offensive. So, two things back to back here that I want to discuss: going on the offensive, which we've already started to beat this dead horse with, if you're defensive players. And the second thing, constant information pickup when one gets in the open field and when one is running linearly. Two things that I think most people do not do enough of. And when I say people, I mean trainers and sport movement specialists, movement professionals in our space. If you were training athletes at any respective level, these are two things that you can do, particularly with American football players. Okay. Look at the constant scanning, guys and gals. Okay. Turning over the head or turning over the shoulders, left, right, constant information pickup. And then that leads to him being able to bounce and spring in a Dion high stepping fashion. Again, we see it here at the very tail end. Watch his head flip up as soon as he secures the catch. And he, as you can tell, is in an information pickup mode where he is ready to adapt. Let's watch it at 50% speed as we see this through. And then I just want to show you a video to end today, something to think about. But let's remember our two key practical takeaways. Well, we got a few. The two that we have, particularly for the players and the movement behaviors of the players, is defensive players being put in offensive situations. Train it, guys and gals. There's no excuse to not train it. These situations can and will happen in the game. And you want to ensure that the players you're locking arms with, the players you're partnering with, are fully capable of being intentional, adaptable, and attuned and sensitive to be able to find a movement solution based on information pickup when these situations arise, when these problems arise. The second thing, guys, get an open field. Give them the opportunity, make them be required to scan and search for updating their information detection, aka perceptual, I was going to say for some odd reason there, their perception, so they can use that to channel and guide their movement actions. Okay. Let's look at this other video to talk about that, which what we need to talk about here. Okay. You can see now Gerald Everett, number 7, Chargers, tight end. He's motioning. I need a replacement. I need to come off. And they send him back out. Everett, we're in hurry up right now. Okay. And that's really what Brandon Staley and Chargers staff said. And they paid mightily for it. Look at Gerald Everett's behavior here. Look at his mannerisms. Look at everything, guys and gals. Look at everything about this. It is not just on Gerald Everett. Yes, he's a paid professional to play at the highest of levels. It is on him to not only be ready to give at least an A type of effort here, and to not behave in this type of manner where obviously he goes in this Eeyore mode, like, oh, bother, who stole my tail, right? Because that cloud has come over Gerald Everett's sky at this moment. And you can see even loses his mouthpiece, like mouthpiece falls out, and he is as distraught and distressed as you possibly can be. But again, though I don't want to give Gerald Everett a pass because I don't want to, this is piss poor effort. Okay. But it is also on Justin Herbert for his lack of perceptual sensitivity and the lack of perceptual sensitivity of Brandon Staley and staff. And as we see this, let's just watch it now from this angle. Let's watch Watson and Herbert here. And I'm just going to make sure that this is in 50% so we can see it for all its glory. Let's give credit where credit's due with Jaylen Watson putting Justin Herbert on his poster, right? And then you see both of these two guys, rightfully so, not happy with one another, and Justin Herbert not happy with Gerald Everett. But I think there's a case to be made that Justin Herbert can and should learn something about shared affordances from this experience and this exposure. Hopefully, he uses this mistake as a springboard for future, more effective, more purposeful, more functional, more dexterous movement behavior. So, guys and gals, I hope that we were able to take a lot from this respective video. I certainly did, though there were a number of different plays that I would have loved to jump into this week from week 2, 2022 National Football League season, in particular, some things from Kyler Murray. But I have this sneaky suspicion that Kyler Murray is going to do it maybe once or twice or 3 times more as the 2022 National Football League season carries on. I hope you guys enjoyed week 2. As always, if you guys enjoyed this movement play of the week, or you have questions, thoughts, concerns, ideas, please feel free to comment. Give me the thumbs up, guys and gals. It'd be great. Share this. Let people see that what is leading to the complex movement behavior that we see on a National Football League Sunday. So for Football Beyond the Stats and Movement Play of the Week, this is the Movement Miyagi, Sean Mishka. I'll see you guys in week 3.